Yo, 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 yo. What it is, wrestling fans. It's Super Kick Weekly time. What is up? Big Vito T, the brand. Big Vito T, my man, how you doing?
Weekly. What's up, man? How's it going? What is up, everybody?
It's good
I
to be
love it.
back.
I'm loving it.
You know what I
Feel like
didn't...
feel like we're getting on somewhat of a regular
Oh,
thing here.
you know what I didn't foresee, Vito, when we rebranded this podcast?
Wow.
And I was... and it just occurred to me while I was searching for images in my video program, because, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a brand new end screen. So make sure you stick around till the end of the show. Very exciting stuff. So I typed Super Kick in there, right? And you know what comes up? Like, of course, no wrestling stuff really comes up, but you know what comes up?
Huh.
Soccer stuff.
Really?
It's all soccer. So then that got me to thinking, like, what if there is some sort of a misconception, especially with our fans abroad, that they're maybe thinking that they're getting some sort of soccer podcast, and then
Our
here we
Irish
are.
fans are actually looking for a soccer podcast, and they get a wrestling podcast. I love.
Hey,
Hey, if it turns them on to a new thing, good for them.
unofficially, of course, but I thought that would be a nice little anecdote to open up things, Vito. And we're here today, folks. If we're going to cut down to brass tacks, we're not going to waste y'all's time. We don't want to waste each other's time. We're going to dive into a subject here that's near and dear to both of our hearts.
Yes.
We're going to hop back into the time machine, our wrestling time machine, if you will, Daddy, and go to 2001 and the day, no, not a space odyssey, but the day that WCW and Nitro died, the very last Nitro, the Raw that also took place concurrent to that. Man, we could probably go on for hours about this subject, so it's kind of hard to find a place to begin. We kind of do this thing, though, where we kind of put ourselves back in that state and time. So I know I was 16 years old when this happened, and I remember it semi-vividly. Vito, what about you?
Let's see, March 26, 2001. Yep, I was rolling up on 17 here soon as well.
Man.
And I remember it quite vividly. Uh, like me and you right now, they were simulcasted.
Yeah.
And
Big deal.
They made it very aware that night multiple times, which I thought was very, very cool. But I remember it oh so well. Uh, and I remember just being in awe. And I think I watched Raw more back then,
Mm-hmm.
but um, but I think I had cable at that time, so I had the flipper and I flipped back and forth. I think I was flipping that night. So always great thoughts. And I watching it back, there was only small parts that I didn't remember, but I remembered most of it on both shows.
Come to think of it, man, I've been trying to dig for it, and I'm glad that you had those details. I don't remember where I watched this or any of that stuff. I want to say, if I remember right, I don't think I had cable at the time. I think if I did watch this live, it was at a friend's house, but God, I don't remember. I would remember, I think, if I was at my house and it was like a really, but I know that things were going on at the time. I mean, let me ask you this. Were you as a fan, were you aware that like WCW was like being sold or any of that stuff? Or like where were you like mindset wise with that?
Um, I don't I don't think I had access to the interweb at that time.
Right.
So I don't think I was smart at
Well,
that time.
well, I mean, right, but still there would be smart stuff in print and like PWI and stuff like that, but just the information would be like really dated,
Yeah.
you know. So I don't
Um,
think we're
no, I
completely
don't
in the
think I
dark.
knew of WCW. I knew that it was, on shaky ground
Right.
because I was following the product, if you will.
I would visit I would try to look up stuff on the internet when I could at that time, like at friends' houses and stuff every now and
Yeah.
then. And also, oddly enough, to begin that year in the beginning of 2001, there in like January, uh, I had gotten this, I guess it was out of PWI or I don't know how, but I got this like trial subscription to Pro Wrestling Torch, the newsletters.
Yeah.
So it was like, $6 or something, and you got like 5 issues or 4 issues or whatever it was. So I was like, hell yeah, I sent that baby in. And so, if, like, for that first month of that year, I got those torches. And so it was very detailed stories about Eric Bischoff's, attempt to purchase it. In fact, it was pretty much written in the torch like it was a done deal, like WCW set to sell to Fusent Media Ventures and Eric Bischoff. And it was reporting about, like Bischoff coming in and like being there like at one of the last couple pay-per-views. Can't remember which one it was. It's probably like the January or February pay-per-view or something like that.
Yeah.
Like he was going to be there, and they were like doing the whole thing, like prepping for them to take over. And then all of a sudden, news hits the interwebs about Vince buying it. And I don't remember exactly how I found out about that, but it was, I did know that it was happening, and it was over the internet somehow.
When did you find out Vince was gonna buy it?
I want to say it happened.
Sunday, Saturday?
It was like the week of, like, literally it was pretty much like the Nitro had happened, like Monday happened. And then somewhere along that week, I want to say it was like early in the week, the news started coming in about, oh, all of a sudden, Vince is the one buying the company. And it was like, I want to say that's kind of how it played out. It was like pretty much immediate.
Yeah, I don't remember.
By the
Yeah, I
time it
don't
hit
think
the
I had
sheets.
internet at the time, so I didn't and I don't know why. I used to go to the library for internet when I didn't have it, but at that time in my life, I just wasn't I just wasn't doing the internet thing for some reason.
I think even though my paper subscription had ran out back then, the internet wasn't so much about subscriptions to websites and stuff like that. So, like, I mean, Torch, I think they did have some sort of like VIP web experience, but at the time, you could still go on to Pro Wrestling Torch and pretty much access all of the major news articles. I'm not sure how they have it set up now because now I'm more of a Meltzer
Um,
person.
when
But
I went when I was in high school, there was a website I went to. It was called PWBTS, Pro Wrestling Between the Sheets.
okay,
And that's the one I used for my news before I ever found out about the torch or anybody. So they probably came from the news articles probably came from Dave, but
Right.
That's the website I used back in the day.
They either trickle down or, a lot of the times nowadays, like they're not even the first ones to report stuff.
I don't know if that's
It's
still a
like
website.
it's like a Fightful thing or whatever the other one is. There's a couple different ones that are like, that drop the big news nowadays. But yeah, it was different back then, bro.
Yeah, PWBTS is still a website. That's cool.
Check it out. Name drop, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Check them out if you never have before. These are our wrestling dirt sheets, and I haven't visited the Torch in a while. I wonder how it's set up, but sometimes they've broken a couple stories
Just
semi
to
recently.
just to throw this out there, the very top news article that came out today was H2O Wrestling returns to Williamstown, New Jersey on November 13th. So, breaking news, ladies and gentlemen.
All right,
H2O Wrestling, Williamstown, New Jersey.
water wrestling.
Water wrestling. No disrespect to water wrestling.
The water championship.
Yeah.
So yes, this was 2001. We finally get. I mean, regardless, this is what we all like wanted to see. I mean, even though we didn't necessarily want WCW to end, at least most of us didn't. We wanted WWF versus WCW. Like this was always this is what we thought we were getting when the NWO hit. Like, oh my God, like it's happening. But WCW was just such a cesspool at the time.
It just needed rebranding.
Yeah.
I mean,
they tried to rebrand a couple times, and it was bad.
Essentially have WWE versus WCW right now, but they're not. You know what I mean?
Now we get it in a different way. Yes, this is really weird. I mean, just seeing how this was the last show on TNT for, 20 years or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
Almost 20 years, like 17 years.
Yeah. Well,
pretty crazy.
It's been for like 4 years now. So, yeah. 18 years.
So we'll go over this Nitro, go over this Raw, and we'll kind of see what comes up in the in-between time. But yes, I mean, of course, as fans, pretty much a given, we had a lot of expectations going in to something like this. But, if you weren't expecting it, it would be pretty much like, so not knowing that it was happening. I mean, do you remember, like, if you had it on Nitro at first, and did you see the whole Vince McMahon thing? I mean, what?
I'm pretty sure I had it on Raw first.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I was watching Raw that night.
From what I gather, they were off by an hour. So it would have been Nitro had a first hour unopposed, and then the second hour of Nitro, I believe, went head to head with the first hour of Raw. Right? That's kind of how it lined up.
I was completely confused when I was watching them the other day.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure it out.
Just to straighten that out, if you go back and watch these shows, keep that in mind that the first hour of Nitro was unopposed, even though Vince appears on there and has segments across this Nitro in the first hour. Raw doesn't come on till that second hour of the Nitro, that back half.
Well, maybe I was watching Nitro first because I do.
Right. So it's possible. It is very possible. I mean, yes, I think about it as well, and I think back like wow,
Now I'm questioning myself because Vince showed up, so I might have been watching Nitro first. Now that you say that.
Right. Yeah, because that Vince thing happened at the beginning. So yeah, you had an hour of Nitro, and then And we'll get to kind of how this all, the overlap in the shows, because there's kind of a funny thing that happens.
Yeah,
But,
it's really weird.
um,
I wrote it down. It's
and, so yes, we'll start with this Nitro. Of course, the first thing you see is Vince McMahon.
And the first words you hear is, imagine that.
Right.
The first words he says. Imagine that.
Just in total Vince fashion, just the shock. But it's typical Vince, just a quick little thing saying that, he'll address everyone later, and says that, the classic, and we've seen this played over and over again, the palm, the future's in my hands. In my hands, pal.
Yeah.
So that's what we get. Says there'll be a simulcast, blah, blah, blah. So that's how we started. Of course, the Nitro, Tony Schiavone and Scott Hudson are there on commentary, and they're selling everything in shock. We do know now that, of course, Shane McMahon was down there running their guerrilla position and basically running the show, I suppose. Calling the shots, booking this thing on the fly. Which,
you think that's what happened? You don't think he let WCW have their last show?
I wish I mean, do you have that information? I wish I had that information.
I don't.
I mean, I would assume that that's kind of how it went down. I know that it's probably been covered on like the Pritchard podcast or something like that, because he was involved, I believe, at this time on the WWE side. Or no, wait, Pritchard was down there with Shane. So if I remember right, I have heard this on Pritchard's podcast. And they were down there, and they pretty much ran this thing and put it together, from what I understand.
I did not know that.
I mean, that would just kind of make sense if they were assuming control of everything. They decided who to leave the belts with. As we can see in this first match, with them having Booker beat Steiner and gain control of both the world title and the U.S. title.
So I wanted to point something out here.
Okay.
Because the next thing is it's an outdoor show. It's the Spring Breakout.
Yes, Panama.
What did you think about those?
Oh, I loved it.
Did you like those?
I loved it.
I love those too. Were you the same as me, waiting to see who was going to go in the water?
Well, you're always waiting for the water spot. Yes.
One person's going in the water. Who is it? Who is it?
But the kids were like asking, like, they're like, wow, why are they on a beach? And, even the wife asked, like, oh, why are they on a beach thing? And I'm like, WCW just did random stuff like that. Like, they didn't
Once
care.
a year.
Yeah. Like
Once a year, they surround themselves with drunk young people and wrestle around water.
They would have shows at the beach or at, like the Road Wilds. Those were all free. You know what I mean? I wish I knew that in like retrospect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not like I could have made it there, but like literally it was free. They did not charge. It was walk-ups from the beach and then a few fans or whatever, you know what I mean? It was same thing here.
See, I remembered that it was Spring Breakout. I forgot that it was Night of Champions.
Yeah, I didn't know that they had dubbed it the Night of Champions either. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I forgot all about
that. Just another a trademark that WWE ended up using a few years later.
Yeah.
Just another one of them. So if it was actually trademarked by them, that is. What'd you think of this Booker Steiner match? Steiner.
Um, well, before I tell you that, I just wanted to say how nostalgia hit me with the 1-800 collect uh, advertisements that they had.
It's
I just
weird which ads they
I love
decide to
it.
leave in.
Yeah, I loved it. I love the old 1-800 collects and 1-800 call ATT. I love those things. They were funny. That's what the new insurance commercials are. It used to be those, and now it's the insurance commercials.
Right.
Um, the Steiner Booker T match, the crowd was intense. They were into it. They were all over the place too.
Crowd was
Um,
hot.
Madeja, I didn't know who she was at first, and I was like, is that Madeja? It has to be. I couldn't think of anybody else. But then
Hmm.
they announced it as Madeja. I was like, I was right. Good, good, good. It was a pretty physical match. What are your
It was
thoughts on it?
good.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. I was like,
yeah,
man, it's like they just did all their best stuff within like 5 minutes. And, it was nice and quick, but it was a lot better than I remember most Scott Steiner matches being. And I
yeah,
think that it was like, they had like a 20-minute Scott Steiner match in 5 minutes. And that's why
yeah.
it was so
That's
good.
that's why that's why it was the best Scott Steiner match, is because it was only 5 minutes.
Right.
It went 5:08.
Man, when they would
Uh,
have him work like those 20 minutes, those were brutal.
it was a reverse power bomb to a bookend finish. I thought there was going to be a kick out, but I'm like, oh shoot, that's right. It's only 2001. It's a Nitro, so I was like, all right, if that was 2023, he would have kicked out of that for sure. Anyway,
Times
uh,
have changed.
the I always thought Nitro um was weird about spring breaks. Like they overdid spring break, I feel like. It was weird. Cause like back then that was when
All the cut scenes and stuff.
yeah. Yeah. Remember back then, remember Too Hot for TV, Spring Break Uncensored, and they had all those like DVD or VHSs you can buy. Call us 1-800 number
GG
1999.
GG Dub.
Yeah, yeah,
Pour some
yeah.
liquor out.
Uh, wasn't there a documentary made about that guy? I think
Probably.
there was.
More
Yeah,
than
like
likely.
just recently.
Yeah.
Not in a good light for that guy.
Yeah, you think, yeah, they knew that he was trash even then, man.
Uh, so yeah, WCW and spring breaks were always weird. Like they sent me, Gene Okerlund, and the Nitro Girls to people's houses or dorm rooms,
Right.
and it's like, what are you? I just thought spring break was weird with WCW.
At least they tried to have fun like that,
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they did a lot of stuff like that. Never stopped doing it.
yeah.
Nitro parties.
Yeah, Nitro part. That's what they were. Nitro parties.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I sent in a Nitro party, dude. I know we
Seriously?
filmed one. I don't know if I actually sent it off. I have to remember, I have to ask Dave Bainan if we actually mailed it or if he actually mailed it because I
If
don't
not, he
remember.
has a video of you in on a Nitro party.
We, I had a little video, little minute video of our little Nitro party. It was pretty lame. Never made it on TV, of course.
No, I didn't see it.
But uh, then we rolled into something kind of weird.
Very weird.
They decided that they would have and you'll have to back me up because I have notes here, but I'm also just going off of a thing too. Um,
You want to know what I thought this was?
pull up my notes. Are
You
you
know what
talking?
I
Are we talking about a segment or a match? Because I was about to roll into the
match?
next match. Yeah.
Yes, the match.
Right.
I watched this with my cousin. And I was like, you know what this is right here? When they first went out there, I was like, this is go out there and try to get a job. Go impress somebody.
Did I skip over I skipped over the Flair promo, didn't I? That's how it all
Uh,
started, right?
the Flair promo was, yeah, Flair promo was, yeah, I forgot about that too.
Yeah, so the Flair promo, um, it was okay, but I thought it ran kind of long. I'll just say
Yeah, it
that.
was, yeah. Mostly the notes I wrote here was 22 years later he returned with Sting.
It was a bunch of it was a bunch of stuff about Vince, and then like
Yeah,
at the end he was like, "Oh yeah, me and Sting are gonna wrestle." You know,
yeah.
when it should have
And then
been a lot more about.
he mentioned like Dory Funk, Steamboat, and Harley Race. He was mentioning them like they still work there, like Vince was taking their job, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Let me
Yeah,
see your roster page because I don't think they're still lacing them up, man."
I could confirm. I mean, I don't think they were working for him in any kind of official capacity, of
No,
course.
I'm almost positive that's a no.
But so we go into this next match, which was Filthy Animals 3 count, and then Young Dragons,
Yes.
and the winner was going to get a cruiserweight tag title shot later in the show, which was I thought was confusing because I thought one of these teams was the champion.
Um,
But
was it cruiserweight tag team? Did I miss
cruiserweight
that
tag
part?
team titles, yes,
Wow, I totally missed that part, I guess.
yeah, cruiserweight tag team belts because the natural born thrillers kept the regular tag belts.
Wow,
Couple matches later.
I totally overlooked that. Interesting.
Yes, they had cruiserweight tag titles, which they had just started like a couple months before that, and I thought was a heck of an idea. In fact, I mean, if I ran a promotion, I would institute weight classes more seriously. I think that there's a lot of opportunity in that,
Yeah.
instead of having like right now, like in WWE, for example, right? Instead of having two uh two world champions, well, it's like, okay, Roman Reigns is the um like he's like the heavyweight champion or whatever, and then Rollins would be like the like a light heavyweight or like a
Middleweight.
middleweight. Don't make it sound so small. Something
Yeah.
you could maybe even technically like give Roman like a super heavyweight. Maybe say that he's if I say like 250 or above, you're in the supers.
Yeah.
Or something. Maybe you could pass that off. I don't know what they bill Roman as weight wise, but I think he's at least listed at 250. I mean, at least. I don't know. But yeah, weight classes in wrestling. Why don't they do it more?
I don't know,
Mm.
man. Because they don't want to lump them all together.
And
They
you
want to have the big guys and the little guys.
and that's fine to do. You could still do that. But it's just not going to be for a title, you know. Um, I mean that seems simple enough to me. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Roman at 265.
265. So there you go. You could
Yeah.
say 260 would be the cutoff for the super heavyweight class. Roman could be the super heavyweight champion. Rollins would be the heavyweight champion. And then you can have a light heavyweight and then a cruiserweight. And if you took like each one of them seriously, some guys would be able to wrestle in both. You could just as easily have Roman slim down to 255 and fight heavyweight, it
What,
would
your
put an
intercontinental
interesting.
title would be your open weight?
You could maybe do something like that. Yeah, have an open weight title. Then you could have big guys versus small guys for a title. Use the open weight
Yeah,
title for that.
I'm into that.
Yeah, you know, it would give it an extra, a cool little wrinkle. It would have been cool if AEW would have started with something like that, but they, instead of doing that, they did the rankings thing
Yeah,
and the win-loss records, which
I
they've
like that.
they've tossed the rankings, but still have the records, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The rankings are loose. Now it's not so much rankings now. It's more like, what have you done for me lately?
Right. Fair enough.
It's like, oh, I beat him and him. All right, well, I guess you can walk up to Orange Cassidy and be like, hey, let's do it. Well, I beat him and him. All right, or I beat her and her. All right, well, Chris Statlander's right over there. Go tell her what's up. Anyway,
But these guys all worked hard, and of course, a nice quick 3-minute match full of high spot stuff, whole bunch of flip dives.
my main notes, I got two, was I miss babyface Rey Mysterio.
Right.
Right? Wasn't he cute? Little baby face Rey Mysterio.
Right.
Jeez. And it was over way too fast. Way too
Well,
fast.
they had to work later. So, from a
Yeah.
union standpoint,
Yeah.
so
And
much you can do.
I always liked 3 count. I was a mark for 3 count. Oh man, I was a fan. They brought out those orange
Yeah, why
circles
not?
or the green circles. Remember that?
Yeah.
Put them on there. Did the boy band thing.
And Hayashi, I don't think he ever made it to the E, but Yang did.
We're gonna discuss that later.
All these guys, everyone made it to the E, but Courageous never did, and neither did Kaz Hayashi.
No. Slightly. Well, I'll discuss exactly how that went down.
Okay.
But um, yeah, it was good. I enjoyed the 3 minutes and 37 seconds that it went.
So there was a lot of stuff, like a lot of in between things here, with like Vince. And it's weird how this went like concurrent to like what they showed on Raw. And we might talk about this later as well, but I think I know some of the stuff they showed on Raw when Vince was in his thing, I was like, wait a minute, what? That happened on Nitro? I don't remember that.
No, they showed different backstage stuff for
Right.
Raw and Nitro.
Yeah, I was like, what?
So
I'm like,
all
Jarrett
the
was on the
gross stuff
show?
happened
What?
on Nitro, which is weird to me.
All the what?
All the gross stuff.
All
We're
the
gonna talk
gross.
about that. I wrote it all down. Made me feel gross. I'll talk about it. Like right now. When it came back to him after that match, he was on the phone. He goes, he's a bad, he's not a bad talent. And then Trish came in and he's like, oh, I gotta go, and hung up the phone. And I was like, oh, he's not a bad talent. Just talking crap about a WCW guy.
These,
And then,
his acting when he's on the phone is the worst.
Trish sat down next to him and he leaned over and like laid down kissing her.
Right.
And then the cork popped.
All right.
And I was like, oh, gross. You dirty old man. Anyway,
And
that's
now
just the
knowing what
beginning.
we know, that this like the storyline pretty much is like a dramatized version of what happened with them in real life.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. Poor Trish.
But
It continues. But The next match.
We got Sugar Shane and Chavo Jr. for the Cruiserweight title.
Yeah.
Man, he never got to do the Sugar Shane character in WWE. I thought it would have been all right. But,
Yeah, I thought it was cool. He came out with the Nitro girls. I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, he kind of came out as regular Shane Helms for a little bit, but then quickly they turned him into the Hurricane.
Yeah, very fast.
Yeah.
But they really pumped him up before the match. Like, they gave him a good minute promo or video package, I should say. Like, this is Sugar Shane Helms, blah, 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 blah. Like, I was like, dang, they're really putting a lot of time into him. I was impressed. I always liked him.
He was thought to have, I mean, when the company, WCW, was high on them at the time. So that was probably kind of one of the things that just like, we're going to stick with this, pushing this guy.
Yeah. Because he was the third member of 3 Count, right? It was him, Evan Courageous, and Shannon Moore. That was 3 Count, if I remember right.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We get another Vince thing. These are just becoming tiresome at this point, but
yeah, that's the one where he popped the cork.
Oh,
then
okay.
we had the Chavo Guerrero Shane match, which I thought was a pretty good match. It went 4:38. It was solid. I had no complaints about it. The finish was kind of interesting, I thought. It was a vertebreaker, and Chavo took it from Shane, but he held it for a minute, and Chavo's head was down. And then as soon as he went to drop it, Chavo went, whoop.
Yep, I noticed that too.
Oh,
he
man.
Took it great.
Like, precise.
No danger.
It takes a lot.
No danger there.
Nope. It takes a lot for him to, and he did it precisely too. It was amazing. Good job, Chavo, for taking that vertebreaker.
We then rolled into O'Hare and Palumbo, Natural Born Thrillers against Team Canada, Lance Storm, Mike Awesome. 3-minute match.
Yeah. I had a problem with Mike Awesome. His name was the Canadian Killer. Now, I wasn't exactly sure exactly what that meant exactly. Is he Canadian Killer? Like he kills Canadians? Because that's the vibe I got. Like the Canadian Killer or the Canadian Killer.
Well, it's like the Canadian Crippler.
Yeah,
but he's a Canadian
but it didn't have the
instead.
same ring.
Right.
The Canadian Crippler is like, I don't know, it just doesn't have the same outcome as the Canadian Killer for me.
I could see that, I guess.
Like if you were to say baby killer, that's not a baby who goes off killing. Or cat killer, that's not a cat who kills people. I'm just saying that's the ring I got from it. Yeah.
So
Natural Born Thrillers.
All these guys end up with jobs.
Yeah.
We're all pretty featured and thought to be, a big part of whatever they were going to do going forward.
Yeah.
We then roll into Stasiak and Bigelow. They
also
Bigelow out here.
Right before that, that's also the first time we see Michael Cole in the night, and he looks totally. I forgot he looked like that.
Right.
Got the frosted tips.
The frosted hair, yeah.
And then I wrote down Trish is gross because that's the scene where they're feeding each other strawberries. And she's like into it. And I'm like, I feel so bad that Trish had to go through this. And I don't know. She just, it was just awful. I feel so bad. But she was into it, so whatever. Now it's on to them.
Let
Stasiak
me
and
tell you
Bam Bam
this,
Bigelow.
man. It looks creepy, but I don't know. Women find power very sexy. So at that point in time, she was probably like, take me, Vince McMahon. Anyway.
I'm back to uncomfortable again. Anyway, now was this? Did I hear that this is loser gets tattooed? Is
uh,
that? Did I
right.
hear that?
It was, yeah, I think it was more of a big deal for Stasiak than Bigelow. But yes,
Oh,
that was the idea. I think if Stasiak lost, he would get tattooed more or
oh,
less.
okay.
Yeah, but they squashed Bigelow out, dude. They pretty
Yeah,
much job him out. So they apparently had plans for Stasiak, not for Bigelow. Um,
it went a minute 24. I wrote
you
down,
know,
stuff happened.
right?
That's my only note I
Yeah,
wrote down for this. Stuff happened.
because Stasiak had that little run in the E before this, and then had crossed over to WCW. He was meat before this.
That was before this?
Yeah,
I thought that was after.
no, no, he did the meat thing. That was in like '98 or '99,
Oh,
and then he jumped over to WCW because he was a lower mid carder in WWE or not on the show at all. So he crossed over because he figured, you know,
you're
he
gonna
could,
love this next note.
what's that?
William Regal warns Vince that WCW sucks and he shouldn't buy it. And
Yeah.
DDP says stuff.
Yeah. Well, it was funny the Regal thing because when they cut back, Shivani and Hudson had to play it off I had to call your matches, pal, or whatever he said. He was trying to fire back at him. I thought it was funny in retrospect that they pretty much had no, I don't think ever planned on hiring Shivani or Hudson,
Yeah,
ever.
no, and they
Um,
didn't.
nope, never did. So yeah, the DDP thing was weird because if they taped it earlier in the day, right?
Yeah,
And he already knew about it before everybody else did. Just kind of one of those logic things that they didn't think about.
yeah.
Um, so, there's a video package. Vince, they do another Vince thing, which wasn't much. Then we go into the Cruiserweight Tag Title match. Mysterio, Kidman, Kid Romeo, and Elix Skipper. Man, Elix Skipper, forgot about him.
Prime time. They never called him Elix Skipper, not one time.
It was prime time the whole time,
Prime
huh?
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, geez. But that was a good match. A lot of good tag moves in it. It went 443.
It was a more extensive version of what they did earlier, with the
Yeah.
three-way, which makes me think, why couldn't they have just booked a gauntlet or something? I guess they weren't really doing stuff like that at the time, but I don't know. It just seems kind of weird booking. Win a
Oh,
three-way, get a one-on-one match. I don't know.
Primetime did it was like an electric chair, uh, straight jacket, German suplex type thing with a bridge for a 2 count. Did you see that?
He always had the greatest offense,
It's
you
weird.
know.
He's like, threw him back. Oh man, and
He's
he
an
bridged
innovator
it.
that gets forgotten about, you
Yeah,
know. And MVP totally stole his finisher, which I've always loved. You know, the overdrive or the AKA the play of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've always thought that was like super cool. And going back to which, I thought to myself, like, he should have gave that move to Booker or something. You know what I mean? Booker needed a different move than the rock bottom or whatever he called it, the bookend.
Bookend.
It was totally lame that, it was just totally lame that was his finisher, you know?
Yeah. It's basically like the rock bottom, but
yes.
Instead of laying down, he went to his knees.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't even a good rock bottom.
Yeah, no, that I made a note of that, but forgot to mention it. But yes, did not really like that. We get a Sting deal.
He was in a bat room.
Yeah, someone spent like 2 hours hanging up bats in a thing. And he does his catchphrases, you know. He harkens back to the 1996 promo when he, when he turned into the Crow Sting about, nothing's for sure. The only thing sure about Sting is nothing's for sure, pal.
Yeah, it's for sure.
Some cringy spring break stuff. Pretty much is what we'll say there. Then they did the Flair Sting match. Now, what happened here, apparently, Vito, is this match went longer than Vince anticipated. So he walks out to the ring and the match was still like finishing. So they had to play off this thing, I guess, where he had Lillian Garcia reintroduce him.
Yeah, well, you didn't see that on Nitro. I didn't find that out until Raw.
Right. Exactly, yeah.
So basically, you're watching this Sting and Flair match, and then it's like they hug, and then it switches over to Raw real quick, and then Vince is like, they catch him from basically the ring post, and he walks up the ramp about halfway down the ramp, and then he goes back down, and I was like, did he just glitch or something? And then on Raw, you find out, no, I need better respect. Re-announce me.
Right.
It's hilarious.
Which she didn't even.
Well, the Sting match only went 7:19. Sting Flair only went 7 minutes. You didn't even give him 10 minutes.
Yeah, the match was what it was. I mean, Flair has even went on record saying that it wasn't his greatest performance, but it was what it was. He had to wear the shirt, But, a fitting way to close it out. I mean, I don't think anybody argues that, ever.
Yeah. Paul Heyman goes on to call Vince the czar of pro wrestling.
Seeing Heyman there on commentary when we get to Raw here, really reminds me about just like, I don't know. I think he had a lot more to do with this whole angle than people realize. I don't know if anyone's ever asked really about it, but especially when you get more into like how they actually played out the alliance and all that. I mean, I think Paul really, maybe we'll find that out as we go along here. If we continue on this journey, which of course that's the plan.
Okay. What's your thoughts on the next part?
So we get so this is it. This is the big angle, the Vince Shane deal.
Yeah.
How about you start?
Okay. So when he came down the ring, I bought WCW. Oh, well, I didn't exactly buy WCW. You see. I'm like, okay, hold on. He goes, see, well, it's signed. Well, it's not exactly signed. I'm gonna sign it in a
Right.
couple days. He's begging me to sign it. I'm gonna sign it. I promise I will.
I'm gonna sign it,
Uh,
but yeah.
and he sets up this elaborate story about having Ted Turner come to WrestleMania, sit in front row, and he's begging me to sign it. I'm gonna get to it eventually. It's like it was so awkward the way he was like laying it out, and I was like, "You're confusing the shit out of me. I know how this ends, but I'm glad it ended up this way because you're confusing."
Right.
And then he does the ups and downs, like some Simon Miller shit. He's like Hulk Hogan up or down,
That was very confusing the
Booker
way he
T up
the
and
way he did
down.
that.
Yeah,
I think the crowd was like, okay, wait a minute. Do we cheer during this part or do we cheer during the thumbs down too? Like we
they're
don't
booing the
understand.
thumbs down. I think
Yeah.
like half the crowd was booing the thumbs down
And he goes
and
through
cheering
some
the thumbs
names.
up.
It was interesting that he did that because, he was just kind of like taking measurement with his audience to kind of
Yeah,
see, and pretty much everybody got a pop. Some were a little bit quieter than others. He mentioned Sting, he mentioned Hogan, but the biggest pop was
Goldberg.
Goldberg. And that ought to tell you, I mean, gosh, that should have told them something right there. But
So
he waited the longest to bring him in.
yeah, so when he finally got to the bottom line, he said firing and burying Booker T and Goldberg and everyone in the world. Those are the two people he mentioned, Booker T and Goldberg, when he finally cut to the bottom line
Right.
before his music hits when he's not supposed to leave, which is weird. But they shared the same music.
Yes, this threw me through a loop too because I don't remember. This is pre Here Comes the Money, apparently, because Here Comes the Money was the whole point of this angle, right? That's like where it comes from.
Yeah.
So there you go. So yeah, this was pre that. So I forgot that he did not have his own theme, and yeah, made it kind of awkward, but it is what it is. So yeah, that was the last Nitro. Shane comes out, says he, has signed the thing. The contract says McMahon, but it says Shane McMahon. I mean, if you haven't seen this clip at this point as a wrestling fan, what are you doing?
It's been on so many documentaries and everything.
So,
Let me see if there's a date when it debuted, but I'm guessing WrestleMania.
what's that? What date?
The Here Comes the Money. I don't know when it.
Ooh, good call. Yeah, probably because he didn't come out to that. I would have remembered that
Yeah, I don't
because I've
remember.
watched Mania 17 so many times.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
even
maybe
funny.
it's a couple Raws after that. It says 2001, so it's sometime in that year. Um. So, you want to know? I wrote down some stuff here.
All right.
I basically jotted down what happened to everyone that wrestled on that show,
Okay.
where they went.
Lay
So
it on me.
okay, and I want to talk about everyone in WCW eventually, but on this podcast, I'm just gonna do the guys who wrestled for this show. Okay,
Okay.
so Booker T went straight over. Steiner did some indies, and then went to WWE in October of 2002. Madeja did some indie stuff with Steiner for a year, then nothing after that. Rey Mysterio did some Mexico work, and then some Indies, then Puerto Rico, and then finally WWE in June of 2002. Billy Kidman went straight over. Evan Courageous, he went straight over, then got a concussion, and then was rarely seen. Shannon Moore went straight over to development, and then main roster in July of 2002. Kaz Hayashi had an appearance on Raw, then also on into development. Then Yun Yang went to development for a few months, returned to Raw in September of 2003. Let's see, Shane Helms went straight over, became the Hurricane 1 month after.
There
Let's
you go.
see, Chavo went straight over, O'Hare went straight over, Palumbo straight over, Awesome straight over. But he did not stay for long. I'll get to him later on. Not on this video. On the Raw video, I got a lot more in depth on everyone who came over. But Storm straight over, Stasiak straight over, Keebler straight over. Bam Bam did some indie shows until he died in 2007. He wrestled up to 6 months was his last match, 6 months before he died.
Mm.
Elix Skipper went straight over for a minute, moved to develop, and was gone by Christmas. So March to December, he was gone by Christmas. Kid Romeo wrestled in TNA, never wrestled for the Fed. That's what I wrote here. Sting did some indie stuff, went to TNA, and then didn't make it to WWE until 2014. 13 years took him.
He held out the longest.
Ric Flair did not show up in WWE until November of 2001. Tony Schiavone never worked for the Fed after WCW. He did work for WWE in '89.
Right. Yeah.
I remember. Scott Hudson. Wikipedia doesn't even know who Scott Hudson is. So, sorry, buddy. Sorry.
Erased from history.
And here's my last thing. Sting and Flair met on the last Nitro, right, in 2001. They met up again in 2010 in TNA. Whoa, that was weird. They met up again in WWE in 2019. They didn't have any it was Flair's birthday. That's what it was. And then they met again just 2 weeks ago in AEW in 2023. So that's Flair and Sting's career meetings. Not necessarily match, but meetings.
Every decade sharing a ring.
Yep.
Together. Last 4 decades.
So those are my notes from Nitro.
Well, we will go ahead and flip over to Raw. Pour out some liquor for WCW, though. And because, it would never be the same. We'll, of course, dive into this, a lot more as we go on, as we, of course, all had high hopes for what this could mean as wrestling fans, but we ultimately know how it ended up. And we'll talk about the ramifications of that and so forth, be as it may. But for now, we'll switch over here to Raw. Let's see here. We come on, right. So they show Vince in the back with he's got the monitor set up. One is Raw and one is Nitro. And he's got, and like we mentioned earlier, it starts with the Jeff Jarrett. Even though Jeff Jarrett wasn't on this Nitro, somehow he was watching Jeff Jarrett on this live feed.
Oh man!
of WCW Nitro.
He's
So
watching an old Jeff Jarrett
I guess,
reel.
yeah, he was watching old Jeff Jarrett tapes. And it's amazing that Vince used the opening of this show, one of the most historic Raws that there's ever going to be. The first order of business is to bury Jeff Jarrett in the opening because it cost him money.
Oh
You know,
gosh,
him
that's too
holding.
funny.
For those of you who don't know the story, Jarrett held out on Vince just a year and a half or so before that, right before leaving to WCW, held him out for a lot of money,
Took the road dog with him,
high six figures.
or was that
Uh,
before that? Jarrett's walked out on Vince multiple times.
no, that was I think the first time with the whole Road Dog thing. Road Dog, he never went to WCW in the later days.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how they open up Raw. We get Jim Ross and Paul Heyman, which, as noted, Heyman's now around because ECW is closed, and Lawler was having some sort of like legal trouble, I think, at this time or something like that, or was just on the outs with the company. And oh yeah, I think that this is when they were having that fight over the cat. They fired his wife, the cat, and so he quit too. So they brought in Heyman to replace him.
Right off the bat, can we just agree that WWF The Music Volume 5 is the best music album put out by WWE?
No way.
I love it.
No way.
I love it.
I loved either 3 or 4. I think it was the best.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I loved both of those.
I love this one. It's got all the good stuff on it.
5 had a lot of retreads, it seems like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It had the rock with the pie on the front. I just thought that the cover was cool and the songs on it were cool.
I remember 3 was awesome because that was the first time we had DX.
Yeah.
I believe it was 3. That's what I'm thinking of. 3 was the first time we had DX. It was the first time we had like a good Stone Cold one, because the one on Volume 2 was like weird. It had like him talking in it and stuff, and it was like
Volume 2 is not a good.
Yeah.
That was like
Volume 2 had Dude Love though, so that was, man, those were all so cool. That's when you couldn't.
The early ones were really good.
You couldn't just pull up, themes on the internet. Having the themes was like a huge deal. We had some WCW themes taped on like a tape that we taped off of a tape.
Yeah.
Because on one show, I can't remember who was commentating, but for whatever reason, like when they were doing the entrances, they weren't really saying anything. So we had like a pretty good tape of some WCW themes. And, but that was about it. And then somehow I got my hands on a tape of, I don't even know what this was. It was before the Full Metal album, but, some sort of WWF early tape. I remember it had the Sensational Sherry version of the Shawn Michaels song on it.
Okay.
That's about when it was released.
Dude Love was on the third one. So, okay. The fifth one is the second best one. The third one is the best one because it has the Oddity song. I love that song. But I like the fifth one because I like the Rock's Pie song.
Oh, okay.
That's a really good song. And it also has the K-Quick Getting Rowdy song.
Get rowdy. About move things.
Yeah. So those are the 2 reasons why I like number 5. But the Ozzy
Huh.
song and the DX song on number 3, it was just amazing.
Yeah, that was on 3. Okay, maybe 2 was the one that had Mankind on it for the
Yes.
first time.
Yeah, number 2 was my least favorite. Yeah, it had the
Yeah.
Mankind theme on it.
Oh, okay.
So those are the first 2 notes I wrote down. Music
We could
volume
do a
5,
whole show
and
on these CDs, man.
yeah, and WWF New York is the other thing I wrote down because they showed that at the beginning.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
always wanted to go to WWF New York. I always, and being in Oregon, that's on the other side of the country. I knew I was never going to go, but I always thought it was cool that they had their own nightclub.
What is it now? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Let's see here. Let's see if I can find out. Oh, yeah, and then they renamed it The World. It was WWF New York, and then they turned it into The World. Then they closed it. Harder.
Get the address.
Oh, crap, dude.
What?
I think I've been there. So, wow, dude, this puts me through a loop. I didn't even realize this. It turned into the Hard Rock Cafe. I went to a Hard Rock Cafe. I'm pretty sure it was in Times Square. When I was in New York for WrestleMania 29. So literally, I
Really?
was in the building that used to be WWF New York. Yes, I have been there technically. Wow.
Wow. And you didn't even know it.
I didn't even know it, bro.
What? How could you not know it?
This is crazy.
For those of you who are wondering where it was, 1501 Broadway, Manhattan, New York. For those of you, I just pulled up the address.
This had to have been. This had to have been, man. Because we did stuff in Times Square, I think, like a couple different days. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's where we were. I'm like
Yeah,
almost positive of it.
Hard Rock Cafe.
I mean, how many can there be in New York, right? Let's
There's
see.
a Lids. There's a Taco Bell. Remember that? Do you remember that big building right there?
I mean, this would make sense. Times Square. Bro, this is it. I have pictures of this place. Pretty sure I do. I'm gonna have to look it up. But yes,
What
we
you're
were.
gonna have to do is you're gonna have to find old pictures of WWF New York and your pictures and see if you can get any of them to match up.
Bro, I'm almost positive. I am almost positive that this is it. Hard Rock Cafe. Bro, this has to be it. This is it. Anyway, not to get off on a tangent. But yes, the Paramount Theater, I think was right. I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and look at those pictures, but I'm pretty sure that's what we had. Any hoot and holler. Back to this Raw. I forgot where we were even at.
We're still at the beginning.
Man.
Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle comes
Let's
out.
talk about
Yes.
Kurt Angle's heat with the gobbledygooker.
Right. Well, Kurt Angle complains he doesn't have a match for Mania. This is, typical start we've seen. I mean, they do this one almost every year.
And he's interrupted by he who shall not be named.
The nameless man, Chris Benoit.
Oh.
So this was weird. How did you feel about just watching this guy talk and this whole thing happen?
Well, my cousin is here, and he's new to wrestling. He's never watched it before. Well, sporadically maybe in his life, but so I had to explain to him who Chris Benoit was because he's asking, who are these two guys wrestling? So I had to explain to him. So it was rough, you know, going telling him what happened and how come this guy's career didn't go till today.
Running the
So
gamut.
it's always interesting watching a Chris Benoit match. Let's just say it like that. It's always interesting watching one of his matches because you know, you know. You
We
can't
know
help
too
but know.
much. Well,
But
yeah.
it's cool.
You know, the main thing I felt here, of course, it felt weird, but when it was over and they made the whole thing about making each other tap out, well, Benoit does that. You know what I mean? He ends up getting Angle to tap, so it's like at
No,
that point, why even have a match?
Angle wasn't tapping. He was reaching for the rope.
Oh, okay. Well, he gets saved. He gets saved by Edge and Christian.
Yes.
So yeah, that was that. We have that match now set up for WrestleMania X7.
X-7. The X- the word 7.
We get another Vince thing that he's watching Bagwell and Luger on the monitor, who once again two guys who weren't on the show.
He's
And
peeping on them in the locker room. They're just sitting in the locker room, and there's a camera guy. We're to believe there's a camera guy just watching them, and Vince is like, "Yep, there's Buff Bagwell and
right,
Lex Luger."
Lex
It's
Express
like
is out of gas.
it's like, oh, and Triple H and Stephanie are on vacation. Let's let's make sure that's noted.
And if you took a look at Lex, you would know that at that time he definitely was not out of gas.
No,
But that's a whole nother thing.
yeah,
We get Michael Cole trying to interview Deborah. She tells him nothing. They're doing their best to try to build this match between Rock and Austin. The supposed main event for the show, but of course this whole angle with the McMahons and Vince's match kind of overshadows everything.
Yeah, the main event is that they're pumping all night is Rock and Austin versus Taker and Kane.
Yeah, for this Raw, but
yeah, for this Raw, yeah,
right. But the big picture is Austin Rock, on Sunday.
Yeah. I think that's why they were doing this tag thing all night when they're trying to pump it because the Vince and Shane thing. So they were doing their best not to overshadow it.
Right.
They're trying to keep same amount of time for both.
We get Taz and Val Venus in a lumberjack match. Val is doing the right to censor gimmick at the time, so we're right in the middle of all that. This is basically nothing.
Were you a fan of Right to Censor?
No.
Really?
Terrible.
I was a fan.
It annoyed me. I mean, I knew what they're. I mean, I got it, but it annoyed me.
On whatever game was out at that time.
Oh man, the worst music ever, bro. The worst.
So after 52 seconds, there was a missed money shot and a Tazplex, and it was over.
Yeah.
So,
quick little
and
piece
one of those
business.
two guys is still getting work. Not sure which one.
So now we get a Regal segment on Raw that's different from the one that was on the Nitro. Talks about his match, does more WCW stuff.
And Vince is peeping on Animal,
who once again was not on the show. So it was very strange how they picked these people to bury who weren't, they buried people that weren't on the actual show that they were producing. Just a very, very interesting layer of detail that they did. But they come back, they show a randomly Doink is there.
Well, there's a Tommy Maddox XFL commercial.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
well, there
dude.
You go. Yeah, we were right in the middle of the XFL at this point. Man.
Yes, dude. Yes.
Dude.
Yes. Amazing.
Vince was going through this whole acquisition with WCW, getting ready for WrestleMania, had the XFL at the same time, bro. Just the cocaine must have been rampant. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, then Doink, man. I love Doink. Were you a Doink fan?
Early Doink, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I was a fan.
The evil Doink, once he turned face, it was kind of stupid.
Now that we've talked about the Doink, I want one of those WrestleMania shirts. Everybody was wearing them.
I wish they would do
Lillian
that
Garcia.
again. Yeah, I wish they would do that again. That was always a nice touch.
So I looked them up on eBay. I found two of them. One's $280. One's $800. They're both XLs. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. There you go.
Insane.
Then we got who knows what. Regal versus question mark. I thought I wrote down Molly Holly, but then I just wrote and Crash Holly.
Yeah, this was just another little quick thing. Just
28 seconds.
It just ended up in a the angle for the Doink thing with the
Y2D.
Yes, with Regal, something to set up their match at Mania. And it's funny, there's a story in Jericho's book about this, either the first or second book. Apparently, Shawn Michaels was backstage at this Raw, and apparently Shawn was feeling no pain, as it were, and
so he had to smile for a little bit.
Right. And I guess Shawn came up to Chris, in the Doink stuff, and was confused. He's like, "Well, you're doing the Doink gimmick now?" And he's like, "No, I'm just, this is just a thing, just for one night, just a little special thing I decided to do. I'm not." And he's like, "I don't like it. I don't like that they made you Doink." And then just walks off, apparently.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So Shawn was not having anything of it, and was under the impression that Jericho was now Doink officially.
Oh my gosh.
That's how out of it he was.
Oh man, that's awful.
Yeah.
So then they're peeping on Dustin. Dustin's the next person he peeps on. And he tells Trish, "Did you know that he was here one time as Gold Dust? And he wanted to put on get some real implants."
Yep.
And I didn't like that, but I like, and he just purrs on Trish's breast for like a good 10 seconds before the camera fades out. I'm like, oh man, Trish better got a bonus after that.
We come back from a break. They replay this. Coachman interviews Regal. He makes a match with Jericho for the big show for later on. Pretty much how that goes down. Then they cut to Kurt. Angle backstage. Edge and Christian come up to him. They decide to put together a 6-man against the Hardys and Chris Benoit. So.
But then they just pull out Rhino from nowhere.
Right.
Like, oh, yeah. Hey, this is Rhino. This is our homie.
Right.
Like, cool.
Was this the first show for Rhino? I didn't catch that.
They showed a video package later on in the night of him spearing Spike Dudley through a table on SmackDown. So he had been there. I don't know for how long, but at least since last Friday. Relatively new. So
they try to interview Deborah again. She waves them off.
then we got the reason for the weird entrance.
Oh, right. Yeah. The whole the Vince thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's final. It is, but it isn't. Only I can buy it, but I'm buying it next week.
Right. So yeah, we actually so then we have the overlap of shows, the actual simulcast, which would have been the last 20 minutes or whatever of maybe like 15 minutes of Nitro, and then this last part of the first hour of Raw.
Yeah.
So we go through all that. Basically, more, they go over the fallout. They replay the whole thing over again just to drive it home of what's just happened.
I fast forwarded it.
Yeah, of course.
I want to hear it again.
Yeah, why would you, right? We've seen it so many times at this point.
So what I thought was funny is when he got to the back, they showed a video of him, probably after commercial. They showed a video of him on the couch on the phone. How'd you let this happen? You're my lawyer.
Terrible.
And he's like, the attorneys ruined it. And I was like, what?
Right.
How did the attorneys ruin it? You ruined it. Oh, man, I thought that was so funny.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say they told him that he didn't need to sign it yet or something, you know what I mean? Like, but that's never specified. We then go into the 6-man, Hardys and Benoit against Angle, ENC. It's weird that Edge and Christian have both cut their hair, here 20 years later.
Oh, yeah.
They're both short heads. My kids, I can't remember which one, but one of them did recognize Edge. They're like, Dad, is that Edge? And then I'm like, yeah. And then the next thing he follows that up with is, how come there's 2 Edges? And I'm like, no, the other guy's Christian, man.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
This was before the "You Suck" chants.
Right.
I thought that was interesting, a little weird.
Edge was responsible for that also, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
What I understand.
They, Edge and Christian held up the signs that said, "You suck," or whatever, "I suck," or something like that.
Yeah, Edge put it as a suggestion during a promo, and that's where it caught fire, I guess.
Huh.
But, what can you do in 2 minutes with this match? All these matches, I mean, this whole show was just little mini angles to build to Mania, which, is fine, but that's not how it goes today.
I don't know why I had this thought, but 4 out of the 5 living people in this match work for AEW.
What was that?
4 out of the 5 living people in this match work for AEW.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you got Edge and Christian, and then you got the Hardys.
Matt and Jeff, yeah.
Yeah.
The only one who don't work there is Angle, and the other guy's dead.
Right.
So. Well, and then there's Lita and Rhino, but Rhino works for Impact. Lita's a rock star, I think, isn't that what she is? I think so.
So what do we go to from here? We do some more recapping. They go back to what happened on SmackDown with
All right, can I
Undertaker,
ask a
Triple H.
question?
What's that?
I don't remember who it is, but someone called Stephanie a skank in this little area somewhere right here. Why is that? Why does Stephanie always get the bimbo ho skank? Why is she like? Is it because of the she's with Triple H thing, or? But
Jericho.
she's always it's Jericho, right?
Jericho started it.
Yeah,
He was the first one to call her a skank,
yeah.
and then do the whole, bottom feeding trash bag hoe thing. And
The Rock did it too. What do you say? Like a two
yeah,
dollar little wife, or something like that.
they
I always wonder why Stephanie got that negative connotation about her.
they walked that
But
back years later.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. I
never
guess
like
it was
that.
just
Was never a fan.
maybe she just wanted to do it to get heat. You
Yeah.
know, you gotta have that heat. Um. So yeah, then we get Test and X-Pac. This is apparently during the X Factor run because he has Albert with him.
Yeah, and they mentioned um Just Incredible's name, but he wasn't out there. But he was mentioned as part of their friendship.
And
Heyman said his
Test
name.
Test worked with somebody at WrestleMania 17, but I don't think X-Pac had a match. That's kind of
Um,
sad. Sad
yeah.
for him. Um, he was kind of on his way out with stuff, but they went 337, and it was,
Yeah. Yeah. Test worked with Eddie at the
yes, right.
WrestleMania because
X-Pac.
Eddie was a special guest referee for this match.
Oh, right. Yep, forgot to mention that. Yes.
Uh,
Um,
so at the very beginning, there was a slow count from Eddie. And then right after that, there was a fast count. But the finish was a legit count, like
right.
perfectly timed. And I can say that.
It
Uh,
was a crisp count.
it was crisp. Yeah, like you said, about 3.5 minutes. It was an okay match. I liked it. Pac did some cool stuff. Test did some cool stuff. Uh, Funny story about Test is we had the one of the volume musics, the one that has his music on it,
Yeah,
and me and my friends were filming our entrances for our wrestling,
yeah.
and uh, my friend's music was, I think it was Mankind's music, the car crash one, and that so he was waiting for that, but one of us accidentally played the Test song. So it was like Test. This is the thing. He's like, Test is coming to get me.
No, not the.
It was so funny.
We used to do a thing called the Brood Walk, which whatever I think it was volume 3. It had the brood theme,
Yeah.
and we would put that on and just like walk from the living room to the kitchen in my brother's house. Just what I mean. So like someone would grab a cup, and then the other two would flank them, and then we would just do the Brood Walk, just for no reason, just for fun.
Hey, why not?
Yeah. Let's do the Brood Walk, guys.
Oh man.
I don't know. It was funny. But so then they try to bug Austin. Michael Cole does, and same thing. Just glares at him, walks off. Then Foley comes out. We get a random Mick Foley signing, and Foley proceeds to go into some stuff. He's got his book there. Vince comes out and tells him he fired him. He basically go away. He then reveals that he has a tape he's going to play, and so he shows the tape, and apparently this tape was taped like a couple months beforehand, and back in December, and it's him and Linda McMahon signing a bunch of documents, and this would be the what do you call it? Oh,
I'm back.
okay.
Sorry, folks.
I had my eyes closed for a second. I didn't even know you left.
Hey.
But this would be the genesis of so many things that they would do with Foley over the next couple of years. He would show up and pull out one of these contracts.
Yeah. Foley used the term utility of jackhammer deeds.
Maybe a little
I
foreshadowing.
wrote that one down.
Like the genetic jackhammer?
Yeah,
maybe?
That's what he was talking about. But
Yeah.
then he's like, you and your utility of jackhammer deeds were, said he didn't do a good job of being a genetic jackhammer. And right after this, I noticed, I think that's when Vince took a bite of the strawberry and
Spit it out. Yeah.
There was no Trish since the Shane package. I took notice of that.
I noticed that too.
Video.
Yeah. I wonder if that was, I guess, he told her to get out or what. Yeah.
She's like, you didn't get WCW?
She doesn't want him now that he doesn't have it. Yeah. But yeah, long story short, Foley pulls out a contract and says that he's going to be the ref for the Vince and Shane match at Mania. Yeah. So, which was a lit match, by the way. I mean, that whole show, probably my favorite WrestleMania. But yeah, that, that's when Shane did his, the coast to coast for the first time, AKA the Van Terminator.
Van Terminator.
Which we talked about.
We did.
2 episodes back.
I learned that.
But yeah, so they replay some stuff, and then we get Jericho Big Show. So we're driving home this match with Jericho and Regal. Big Show, I don't believe, worked on Mania 17, if I remember right.
Maybe for a hardcore thing, but I don't know.
Oh, no, wait, yeah. He was in that 3-way. That's right, the Raven... No, that was the year after. No, Raven was already in. So yes, I think they did do that was Raven Kane Big Show.
Yeah.
Mania. But yeah.
So just want to point out this Y2J Big Show match went 242. And just want to say that Y2J and Paul White are going to be a tag team here in, I think, a week or two in AEW. Just
right.
Throw that out there.
A long history of working with each other. Former tag team champions in WWE, of course, later on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this plays into the whole, we get Kane and we get Raven at the, at the tail end of all this. That's right.
Yeah. I felt bad for poor Timmy White. He was the ref in this. He looked pretty confused.
The friendly
a lot of
tap
shit going on behind his back.
The friendly tap, Tim White. So we get a little rock thing where he yells at a backstage grip. I get a thing. Dudley's at WWF New York.
Yeah.
Excuse me. They had the big TLC match, so yeah.
Then they have the commercial, that the Chef Boyardee commercial with the Hardys. Have you heard about this?
No, I missed this.
So there's a Chef Boyardee commercial where the Hardys are doing like moves, and then it's like for ravioli, super ravioli or something like that. And they're doing moves to this guy in the ring, and they don't show the guy's face at all. It's just a quick thing. But later on, I think it was just like last month or something. Matt and Jeff did Hey You, the Hey EW
Yeah.
with RJ City.
Right.
They did it together, and he brought up that commercial. And they're like, oh, yeah, the guy they wrestled, I could be wrong, but I think it was Christopher Daniels,
Oh,
the
wow.
guy that was in the commercial. And they said when they went to eat the ravioli, it was cold and it
Oh,
was
wow.
gross. So, but go watch that video because they
Interesting.
talk about that commercial in there. It's funny.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I mean, being a California guy, I think he got a lot of calls probably like that back in the day. So, we get a little bit of Rock Austin, preparation for this match type deal where they're, conflicting. So they're not on the same page, but of course Undertaker and Kane are. This is, of course, we still got the badass version of Taker here.
Yeah.
I
did the keep rolling.
You're right.
I had to do it.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
Oh, yeah. You're either a fan of that era of Taker or not. It's one of those things. I think it's fine. It was a nice change for a little bit, but then it was nice when he returned again, But, so yeah, this goes 446. Was your standard main event, I would say, for the time.
That was pretty good for a 4-minute match.
The main thing is we are building to this WrestleMania 17 clash, of course. Rock and Austin against each other. I have Taker and Triple H. Thing set up here. Kane is in the hardcore match.
Triple H
so
is
yeah,
back
Triple
from
H.
Vacation.
Triple H is all of a sudden back from vacation. Which, by the way, man, and I forgot to mention this when it happened earlier, but the Limp Bizkit My Way video package for for their match, epic, one of the best of all time.
Yeah,
it's like there's that, and then there's the Ric Flair Creed retirement video. They're like neck and neck. We're like the greatest.
And then I thought the ending was pretty good. There was a huge beer bash, and then Rock hit the Stone Cold Stunner. Thought that was cool.
Did you catch that they were drinking Bush N.A.?
Yes. Bush. I thought that was cool.
But not just Bush N.A. Non-alcoholic.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Go back and watch it. There's a big red N.A. on those cans.
Oh, no, I will go back and look at it now.
So they must have not been able to drink as part of the performance or something in Ohio. I don't know. I think there's different regulations when it comes to that whole thing. Or maybe they just didn't want Austin getting drunk at the time. Maybe he was trying not to drink for a minute. But yes, very interesting piece of trivia there.
So,
at least that time they were NAs.
I just want to throw out a couple quick. First, do you have any thoughts on that, Raw? Before I go on to a couple numbers?
Well, as a whole, I mean, what else can you say about it? It's historic. The matches were nothing to write home about. But it was historic and was definitely an interesting time and an interesting thing. You know, like I said, just the burial of certain people. That was the main priority
It
from the
was
WWE
officially
side.
it was officially the end of the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah, yeah.
Officially buried it down.
Pour out
So
some liquor for it. So hit us with the facts, Vito.
okay, this is weird. For for the people who wrestled on this last Raw or last WCW night of Raw. Okay, I worded that way weird.
Right.
7 of the guys work for AEW. 3 of them, 3 guys still work for WWE. 4 of them are dead, and one's a mayor. So there's some
Wow.
numbers for you. Of course, there's some other guys left out. You know, some's a Hall of Famer, some
The
movie
odds are
star,
against
but
staying. Yeah.
there's those numbers. Now I told you what happened to the guys who wrestled on Nitro, but I'm gonna tell you what happened to the guys Vince was perving on. Animal did some indie stuff for a year, then TNA, and then he came back to WWE in 2003.
Yeah.
Dustin came back to WWE in June of '02 as Goldust. Buff Bagwell went straight over, but for not very long. Now, this is the interesting one. Lex Luger, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Lex Luger did not come right over, okay?
Nope.
He did World Wrestling All Stars, which a lot of people did right after
Yeah.
WWE WCW went under. And then he did some TNA stuff. But check this out. In 2001, Luger began working again with WWE on their wellness policy. In regards to this role, he stated, I actually work behind the scenes with them now and again and with their wellness club. I counsel a lot of their athletes on nutrition, wellness, and exercise and taking care of their bodies. That's another thing that WWE is being very proactive now with wellness department and really train these guys with health and nutrition and drug prevention. We're trying to prevent the young guys, this young generation of guys, from going down the same path as we did back in the 80s and 90s. And it says 2011 to present.
Yeah, I knew he had some sort of role with them and has for years. Yeah, I've been loosely associated with the company. He's been on their payroll. And I guess it's still current. I mean, from from what you say right there, it looks like he's still doing that.
As far as Wiki says, I mean,
Yeah,
you can only trust them so far.
I mean,
Now,
until he says otherwise, I guess that's the story.
do you want to? Would you like to hear every person that WWE signed when WCW went under? Want me to
Sure,
run through those real quick?
run through them.
Okay. Here's here's who uh here's who they brought up. DDP, Booker T, Billy Kidman, Chavo Guerrero, Chris Kanyon, Hugh Morris, Lance Storm, Buff Bagwell, fired after a week. This is WrestlingFigs.com. The forums on WrestlingFigs.com. Bull God is the person who posted this. Mike Awesome, Sean Stasiak, Stacy Kuber, Tori Wilson, Chuck Palumbo, Sean O'Hare, Mark Jindrak was sent to development. Shane Helms, Shannon Moore sent to development. Johnny the Bull Stamboli sent to development. Jamie Noble was sent. Jimmy Yang sent. Reno sent to development but never used. Disco Inverner? Disco Inferno. I said it again. Holy crap. Disco Inferno was sent to development, never used. Sanders, development never used. Courageous, development never used. Skipper, development never used. Last Lareau, development never used, which is sad. I like the Raging Cajun. What's his name? Corporal Cajun. I liked him. And this is the worst one. Crowbar. Sent to development, never used. That's sad. Nick Patrick got his contract. Charles Robinson, Scott Hudson was a commentator let go after first appearance. Stevie Ray commentated let go after first appearance. That's who got. That's who got the deal.
Seems like a couple of those guys at least had velocity matches a time or two, which I guess would make sense
Yeah.
if they were in development.
Yeah.
Then they would have just kind of thrown them in on velocity to get a look at them, probably. Remember that happening with a lot of them. Yeah, no, I mean, as history would teach us, there were contracts. We had the regular WCW contracts, and then we had the Time Warner contracts, basically, that were controlled in a different way. That was for all the big stars. And apparently, most of them went for years. I don't really know exactly how it all went down, but the only guy that, well, one of the only guys that denied their money was DDP. He opted to go ahead and take the WWE route, and maybe Buff was under one of those deals too, possibly. If so, they really screwed him. But we'll get into all that.
Yeah.
They go into WrestleMania 17 here, which I'm not sure we'll cover. We'll probably just jump to the Raw afterwards. Or whenever this all picks up again, because if I remember right, I think this kind of, it gets forgotten about for a month or two after Mania. I mean, at Mania, they have the guys show up. They have Shane or whatever. They have the guys up there in the skybox watching the show. But it's not like the night after Mania, they kicked the angle into gear. I think it took a month or two, because we got the 2-man power trip thing for a while with Triple H and Stone Cold. And then they decided to do the invasion thing like a couple months later after Triple H got hurt, and so on and so on. So we'll have to kind of pinpoint whatever show the invasion angle starts, and we'll pick up from there.
Yeah, and I was gonna finish out this show by giving some soccer scores because I didn't want to let people down fully. But there are so many like leagues here. I don't know who. I mean, there's a Spanish league, German league, and they're all scores from the day. Italian league.
There's the MLS. There's the UCL. There's I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't get it all.
So I'll just say, a lot of people, Real Madrid won today. So
Irish
Real
soccer
Madrid.
Rules.
Yeah.
Kind of like nib high football rules.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know anything else. So a bunch of these other ones I don't recognize here. So if you want the English league, Preston North End beat Blackburn Rovers, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. So.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
Can't complain. So join us on this journey, folks. We are going to talk more about the death of WCW, the invasion, how it was handled, and we'll go take a week-by-week pictorial of that leading up to the invasion pay-per-view from 2001. Join us on this journey, because we're going to continue it. The only way that you'll be able to continue it with us is either follow us on the podcast platform that you've chosen, or if you're joining us here on YouTube or something like that, make sure you're subscribed and followed and all that good stuff. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
I just think this was a great idea, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this journey, and I hope other people are too.
This is the easy part because we actually kind of remember this part, right? But actually, we'll be able to dive even deeper next time and run everything over with a fine-tooth comb. So
yeah,
please join us, Vito, my man, Too Sweet Me. On the way out here, let's do this. We're going to roll this brand new end screen we got. Hopefully, we'll see you next time, folks. Over and out.
Goodbye, Ted Turner.